Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form. I woke up this morning and I watched the trailer for the new Superman movie, Superman 2025, I guess we're calling it. James Gunn's Superman comes out July 11th. And I figured now was probably the time for me to put out a video like this. I've been wanting to put this out since the Superman and Lois series finale, because ever since finishing that show, I've been wondering to myself, is the bar super high for Superman 2025? And the reason I say that is because Superman and Lois was just so good. I'd even go as far as to say Tyler Hoechlin is my Superman. They gave Superman a life that we haven't seen in some of these other adaptations. Um, we did see Clark go from like beginning of high school to 10 years later in Smallville. There was The Adventures of Superboy in the late 80s, early 90s. We got to see a bit of his college life there. That was such an odd show, that one. But Lois and Clark in the 90s pretty much ended on a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a cliffhanger or open threads. Like it ended with uh, Lois and Clark, like they now have a baby to take care of, and the show got canceled, so we didn't get to see that. So in a way, Superman and Lois kind of gave us that a bit of a spiritual successor, showing what it's like having Lois and Clark as parents to these teenage boys, and dealing with superpowers. And yeah, and I thought it was a great show, like the way that it took bold choices, um, and it feels like it didn't overstay its welcome, in my opinion. I know they had ideas for maybe three more future seasons or something, but I thought they wrapped it up really well. I'd rather have that than, Smallville had some great stuff in it, but when I watched all 10 seasons, about 10, 11 years ago, something like that, I noticed some things felt very repetitive. The circular arguments, are Clark and Lex on good terms or not? Um, and like just status quos being reverted and whatnot. But yeah, I thought Superman and Lois did a great job having things stick. And, the series finale really got me emotional. Yeah, it's like top tier television right there. And I've also been enjoying the recent animated show, My Adventures with Superman. It's a bit anime inspired and it has a lot of charm to it. It's not a grown up like Lois and Clark who are parents and have a lived life, but the way that it's able to show the early career at the Daily Planet, I think it does it really well. So on one hand, with Superman 2025 coming out so soon after the Superman and Lois finale, just 7 months away, like not really that much time to acclimate in between. There's a part of me that thought I kind of wish that we could have waited a few years between Superman and Lois and Superman 2025. But on the other hand, Doctor Who has kind of primed me for this, having going from one doctor to the next like almost immediately. And even though Superman 2025 will probably be earlier in Clark and Superman's career, My Adventures with Superman has shown me that there are still ways to keep that fresh. And this trailer, it really makes me a bit more excited. I was rooting for this movie, but wasn't sure if I was ready for this interpretation quite yet. But seeing Crypto, the super dog, I was sold. I remember just 20 years ago, maybe less, people around my age, I was a kid then. I'm 30 for context. Kind of viewed Crypto as a joke. People around my age are a few years older. And of course, with the Dark Knight trilogy being a thing, during that span of time, there was this thought that you can't really do Crypto the Superdog, at least not in live action. But I feel like we've been primed for these more comic booky things and other stuff. You know, in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you got a talking raccoon and all these other things. Like, I feel like if anyone was gonna bring Crypto the Superdog into a live action Superman project, it was going to be James Gunn. So really excited about that. I like the look of the Daily Planet, you know, bringing back the globe type thing. And it looks like I think I saw Hawk Girl in the trailer. I read somewhere that the Isabel Merced plays Hawk Girl here, and she was in Madam Web, but didn't tell the people making the movie that she was in that in case she wouldn't get the part. And yeah, that's quite a quick turnaround right there, going from Madam Web to this. But yeah, and there's a giant monster. Looks like this takes place in a lived in world that already has superheroes, but I don't think the other heroes are gonna overshadow Superman, you know, take the focus away from him. You know, that was something that I feel Batman versus Superman struggled with. You know, when I saw Man of Steel, I was 18, and at that time I thought it was like my favorite Superman movie. But over time I've kind of soured on it a bit. Like I think it's fine, like maybe not as bad as some people say, but not as great as others enjoy. I guess I should say, you know, it's all subjective. And then Batman versus Superman, I thought really made Batman and Superman seem stupid. And then of course we have the whole Justice League thing, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed that, and it even gave Superman a pretty good send off for the most part. I'll get to that. So Henry Cavill Superman, um, you know, in that movie coming back to life full force, and you're rooting for him. The music is amazing as he's fighting Steppenwolf. But then it gets into this bit where it's kind of lingering on him punching Steppenwolf. And it's like, okay, there's other things that need to be done here, Superman. And I think that was part of the point, you know, like stuff does uh, go down catastrophically as he's focusing too much on beating up Steppenwolf. And then once they undo a certain mistake, you know, reverse things. Cyborg calls to Superman and he helps, and yeah, so I think that was kind of part of the point, but also it's a real shame that the last look that we get of Henry Cavill's Superman there is in this dark future vision where he's evil Superman. And yeah, we did get him again at the end of Black Adam, but that leads to nothing, so it's like why bother? And then he was even a digital recreation in the Flash movie, as were George Reeves and Christopher Reeve, and I like yeah, those were didn't really honor the past Supermen, you know. The George Reeves Superman show I've seen quite a lot of, and it's a really fun show, pretty good for the time. I'd even seen the black and white serials, or at least some of the black and white serials that came out before that iteration, and um, and you know Christopher Reeve for a lot of people is the gold standard for live action Superman movies. There's even a lot of hype around that documentary that came out recently, Super slash Man, the Christopher Reeve story, or maybe it's just pronounced Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Really emotional story that like the stuff he went through. You know, I was aware of what had happened to him, um, and you know his disabilities, but it really went in depth, and you get to know him a bit more. And even though Superman, you know, was a character he played, like still meant a lot to people, and so these actors mean a lot to people. So Yeah, it's a shame that Henry Cavill's Superman was never really allowed to be Superman, like, fully, really. And from the sounds of it, if that Snyder storyline had continued, maybe there would have been more stuff that I wouldn't have liked. Like, you bring back Superman and he's good again, but then you make him bad. It's like, it feels like it was zigzagged. I do hope Henry Cavill does maybe get some sort of role as maybe a different character who's important in this DC universe. But I also wouldn't blame him if he didn't come back, given all the stuff that went down. But yeah, this trailer, I see lots of people talking about the color grading, and this is a weird thing that's been happening within the past year or so. Like, people watch a trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, they complain about the color grading. People watch Wicked, and the color grading is like ruins the whole thing for them. And I kind of don't get it with these particular examples. Like, I wasn't too into Deadpool and Wolverine just because of the story, but the overall look of some of these, if something is super, like, there's a lot of dark lighting and hard to see, or if there's a lot of gray settings, then that sort of stuff bothers me. Here, this trailer with the colors in it, like, it really does not bother me. It gets me pretty pumped the way the overall look is. It feels very comic booky, but brought into live action. So yeah, really excited for this film. I don't know if it'll top Superman and Lois for me. Um, I was really blown away by how all that went down. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. This was kind of stream of consciousness. I had all these thoughts about the state of Superman in general, and I think we're eating good this decade. What with the couple of shows that I mentioned, and what we have to look forward to here. I think this is going to be a really fresh movie. Lois and Clark will probably have a pretty good dynamic. I like when in Superman stories, Lois finds out like not too long after. I'm sure that'll probably be the case here. But yeah, really excited to see how this progresses. And I don't need this to set up the wider DC universe. I just need it to be a Superman story. So yeah, let me know what y'all think of this trailer. There are probably some things I forgot to mention in general about what I want to say about these like different Superman incarnations, but I feel like I pretty much got across what I was saying. But yeah, um, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, have a great day, everyone.